Hello everyone and welcome to the Rift. Alright, today we're going to look at Kaisa. It went through a lot of evolution over the past few weeks, changing from more of a control deck to like a low to the ground aggro tempo kind of deck. A lot of the cards you play in this deck are different now. This deck has been putting up some pretty good numbers. It's been doing really well in tournaments. It's got a really high win rate and its matchup spread is honestly a little ridiculous. Some Kaisa players think this deck has zero bad matchups and that decks like Set and Master Yi and Lee Sin are actually more even matchups with this deck and it wins against pretty much everything else, which is nuts. A deck not having a single bad matchup is usually not a good sign, but hopefully people can come up with something to actually counter this deck in the coming weeks. For the deck list, of course, we're playing our Legend, and our chosen champ is Red Kaisa. I think this card is just a lot better than the blue one. The blue one is so slow. It's really not the right format right now for the blue one. For our battlefields, for our blind picks, we've got Reavers and Voidgate, depending on the matchup. Yeah, these are just turn-agnostic battlefields. And our going first battlefield for when we go first is Targon's Peak. Just getting 2 extra runes potentially every turn is insane, especially in matchups like, well, pretty much every matchup, I think. Just having 2 extra energy is kind of crazy in this deck. You could also play Windswept for some ganking shenanigans, but I think the other 3 are probably just better. Maybe you can replace Voidgate with this, depending on the meta, but I don't think so for right now at least. The way this deck plays, and the reason it's so insane, is because it just uses a bunch of units that get value immediately or when they're killed. So it's just really hard to interact with this deck's units. It's just really a feels bad moment most of the time to actually like deal with them. Like when you kill a Watcher or a Yordle, it doesn't feel great because they get to draw a card, so it doesn't really do anything. Same kind of with Kaisa. The Poro is like, it makes you recycle a rune when you kill it, which doesn't feel great either. And then all 3 of these big cards here get value immediately because they basically just have Accelerate. They're able to just come down and immediately attack and kill something, and usually kill something valuable. So yeah, it's just really hard to interact with these cards favorably. This is 2 different bodies. One of them you can use immediately, and these are just really big guys that are difficult to deal with and they act immediately. So basically trying to kill any of this deck's units during your own main phase as the opponent is like a losing battle. You're just never feeling good about doing that. Yeah, this is probably one of the best overall unit spreads in the game that this deck has access to. Like all these cards here are just so good. A crazy unit spread combined with a crazy spell spread is a deadly combo, and this deck has one of the craziest spell spreads in the game as well. Things like Void Seeker are often just a straight +1. Smokescreen is difficult to counter because it's minusing, and Hex Ray is just 1 energy, deal 3. It's extremely undercosted for what it does. Cleave is also really strong because it's just pump spell. It makes the unit bigger, which isn't a removal spell. So this deck has very diverse interaction, and it's just overall difficult to stop this deck's spells. And Falling Star is probably the best removal spell in the game, maybe the best spell in the game, one of the best cards in the game. I wouldn't be surprised if something happened to this card on a ban list at some point. It's so strong. As far as units go, we're playing 3 Watcher, really good, just takes a point and draws a card when it dies, so replaces itself. Really the only thing that matters is getting the point. 3 Ravenbloom, this is just like most of the time overstated 2-drop. It's just a decent card. It's pretty big for its cost. And the Poro, just 2 of it because I want to play 8 2-drops in this deck to have a consistent 2-drop on turn 1, and this guy just gets a little bit of value when he dies. For our more medium-sized units, I've got 3 Yordle just because he draws a card, replaces himself. Just good unit, gets points. Yeah, that's basically all it does. 3 Sprite Mother is quite nice. This card is pretty overstated for its cost, and the 3 Might Sprite acting immediately with Accelerate is just really crazy. This card gets value immediately when it comes down, and it's just hard to deal with because it's two separate bodies. I've got 2 Kaisa because the third is our chosen champ. This card's also really good. It can act immediately with Accelerate. It draws a card when it conquers. It's just 4 energy and no power for 4 might, which is already not terrible by itself. And yeah, just crazy lineup of cards right here. They're all very good. And then the powerhouses of the deck. 3 Darius. This card is nuts. It's so big. It acts immediately, and if it ever lives, you're in big trouble. You probably just lose because of all the shenanigans, tapping and untapping it that you can do with this card. It's really nuts. This is a crazy card. 5 energy for 7 might that can swing immediately is bonkers. And another card that's bonkers is 2,000-Tailed Watcher. Yeah, this card is crazy. 7 might, swinging in immediately and minusing everything on the field by 3 might is nuts. It doesn't even target, so it doesn't even trigger deflect. Yeah, this card is bonkers. It's so good. It closes out games. It's your finisher. Yeah, it just comes down and all your opponent's defensives basically just drop to 0. And it's super easy to swing over stuff, clear fields, and take points to win the game. And even if you aren't winning, it's still sometimes just a crazy swing and board advantage. It's pretty good. Yeah, you basically just always have to play with this card in mind because it's, yeah, just a crazy blowout sometimes. Onto the spells. I've got 3 Stupefy. It's a really nice card. Just 1 energy ping, draw a card. It's, yeah, really nice. And it minuses might, so it's a little harder to play around with stuff like orange than a damaging spell is. And 3 Cleave. I'm playing 3 of this. I just really like this card in the stack. Having just consistent access to this is great. It combos so nicely with like any of the units in your deck. It's so good. Yeah, just super cheap. +3 is really nice. Another card that's super cheap is Hextech Ray. This is just 1 energy, deal 3 in this deck, which is nuts. That's pretty undercosted for what it can do. It can trade with units that cost like 3 energy sometimes, which is just a huge tempo swing. It's just so cheap for what it does. It's such a good spell. And this meta is really dominated by cheap units, so a cheap way to kill those cheap units is really nice. Got 3 Smokescreen because it plays around orange's protection the best. It's just a really nice card. 2 energy, -4. It's pretty good as a reaction as well, and it can hit things in base too. So things like Challenge or Gentleman's Duel are a lot less effective with this card. Yeah, just a pretty good card. And then we've got Falling Star. This is like the best spell in the deck. One of the best cards in the deck in the entire game. It's just so strong. I think this card is definitely too cheap for what it does. 2 energy and a power in this deck to deal 3 to 2 things anywhere, or 6 to 1 thing anywhere is just absurd. This should probably have been more expensive. Yeah, I think this card is, something's probably going to happen to this card at some point. It seems really good, probably too good. And then we've got 3 Void Seeker to round out all of our removal. Just a good card. 3 energy, so it's the most expensive spell we're playing, but it kills something with 4 or less and then draws a card on top of that. So yeah, it's just a really good card still for being 3 energy. For my rune split, I've got 7 reds and 5 blues. I think this is pretty much the standard for this. You pay like a little bit more red than you pay blue. You really only do blue stuff when you have more runes out on the field, like Watcher and other stuff, but it's still nice having the 5 because sometimes you want to play like Sprite Brothers and your smoke screens, which do cost blue as well. So it's just nice having 5. For the sideboard, I'm siding 3 Retreat, basically just for the mirror, and I guess Lux as well, but nobody's playing that deck. It's not very good. Yeah, this card just helps you save your units. You can possibly replay Yordle to draw another card, or use Kaisa again to get another card. Yeah, it just works really well with all your Accelerate units because you can use them, get value, pick them up again, put them down, and get more value. So yeah, it's really nice. And just 1 energy is really good. With Targon's Peak, it's even better because you can play play big units and tap out and then still have this for protection. So it's quite good. I'm playing the Third Watcher for some matchups like Aurora decks and maybe some other things where it's good. Some decks have like bigger units that are a little bit of a pain for us to get over, and this card just solves that problem quite easily. I'm trying 2 Noxus Hopeful because I think it's really good against some decks. Like Set, I like this card. I also like it in theory against Dazzling decks and Ramp decks and slower decks because it lets you just put a decent statted unit on board for cheap and pretty quick, so you can kind of flood the board a little more easily and take points faster in the early to mid game, which is really good against ramp decks and slower decks because as the game goes longer and you don't close it out, they are more likely to win. So gotta close out games fast against them. And the final 2, Cathian Reigns. Maybe you could cut like one of these cards here and put in a third one if you're having trouble in certain matchups, but I think 2 is probably fine. It's a really big blowout against certain decks and yeah, can just win you games on its own if your opponent is playing a certain deck a certain way. And yeah, that's the whole deck. As far as where I think it is in the meta, I think this is top 2. By this point, I think that's been proven well enough, at least for now, until we figure out counters for this deck. It's got a very high win rate, second highest in our tournaments. It's done pretty well in recent tournaments, getting a bunch of top cut spots, and its matchup spread apparently has no bad matchups, so yeah, that's a thing. Yeah, this deck is definitely great. The format hasn't been figured out yet, of course. It's still too early, but at least for now, this is definitely a great deck to try and play, and it'll do really well still, I'm guessing. And if people don't figure out counters to it, then yeah, this is just one of the best decks in the game. Some changes that you could possibly make to this deck, I guess, is like playing more Cathian Reign, put the 3rd copy somewhere throughout the deck list if you're playing against like a lot of Jinx, Darius, maybe even Victor stuff. But for now, I think just 2 is probably fine because this deck's matchup spread is like really crazy. You don't really struggle against those decks that much. If there's like a ton of Kaisa being played in the format, maybe main decking 2 retreats and adding some copies of like Mundo would be nice, just somewhere in the deck, maybe in the sideboard, because that card is really only good against certain decks. You might want to cut like Yordle and Cleave for more cards that are good in like specifically the mirror, as opposed to just these like generically good cards. And then of course the Noxus Hopeful may not be that great. I'm just testing it right now. It seems good in theory against certain matchups, but we'll have to see. Alright, thank you guys for watching. You know the drill. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, all that good stuff. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Take care.